Welcome, fellow preppers. But things are going to go down, and we're right in the middle of it, and we don't even see it happening. I thought there might be a great economic collapse of society, that there may be a great earthquake, that there may be a great storm, that we may be invaded. But no, we're like the frog in the bottom of the frying pan, where the heat is just slowly being turned up, and we're about to get burned. And when we do, we'll just jump from the frying pan into the fire, which is going to make it worse. What am I talking about? I'm talking about not the collapse of the almighty dollar. That's not going to collapse. I'm not going to talk about the ending of our banking and monetary system, but something's happening. And if you take time to look at it, you gotta say, I did not see that coming. And what am I talking about? Think of all the stores you go into right now and ask yourself how many of them prefer you to pay with your card instead of with cash. A lot of them right now are still taking cash, but some of the major food stores and chain stores are starting to go all card. When was the last time you walked into one of the chain stores, and I don't like to call them out because then I give them advertising, and you see a limited number of places where you can spend your cash? You got cash in hand, but you got limited ways to spend it, especially in some of these stores. And there's some location of these stores throughout the west, east, northwest, northeast, I should say, where cash is not accepted in these stores any at all. You know who I'm talking about. Again, I'm not going to talk about them. We are moving to a completely cashless society. Why? Man hold somebody up or rob the pocketbook off a woman and go into a convenience store to rob the cash. What is he going to do with it? He can't spend it. He can't use it. So it's no good to him. What is he going to do? Take your card? You can take your card. You just get another one. Cancel that one. So it's getting to where they're saying, well, okay, we're going to cut down on violence by doing this. We're going to wind up cutting down on violent crimes by having these little stores and these people that go in and shoplift and all like this. We're going to cut down on it by making it so they got to have a card. You go into a store, you buy a card, and if you're somebody that's local, that's been there over and over, then you go in and do some shoplifting. They ain't got to know your name or where you live. They got your card. Every store now has a camera capturing your face as you coming in. It's called facial recognition. Now they don't send this to the police or sheriff. This is just for the store use. They say they're collecting information what to sell you. But truth is, you come in, you shoplift, and you go out the door, and they know, and they got it on tape. They got your face. And if you've ever gone in there, you use a card of any kind, they can pull up when you use that card and find out who's got your information. When they get the information, turn it over to police, come and pick you up. So that's what's happening. We're turning to a total cashless society. But why is that bad? Because once you take away the cash out of a person's hand, the ability to barter and trade with somebody else through a system that is recognized like the almighty dollar is, then you have a rebuilding of how you're going to do money and trade. Do you know how much money the United States owes throughout the world? All of a sudden, the dollar's not going to mean anything because we're going to be a totally cashless society. And this is slowly happening. So you're not going to be able to trade a dollar for a pound because places in England going to do away with that. You can't trade a dollar for a euro or a rupee or anything like that because a dollar's not going to have the value anymore. That little pink card, that little gray card, that little black card you have, that's going to tie you to who you are, is going to be the only way to buy something or sell something. You put a price on it, you put it in a counter to be sold, and you selling it with your card. Because how did you buy it? You bought it with your card. So with your card, you're going to sell it to somebody else with their card. So a card, even though there's a numerical number on it, it's not dollars and cents, people. It's not the same. We're the frogs in the frying pan, and flames just got turned up a little bit. You know, once the flames get to a certain height and the frog goes to jump out, he can't because his hands are stuck to the frying pan. His legs are stuck to the frying pan. He can't jump out. He's there for the long haul. And even if they put water in there to cool off the pan, it's still going to be boiling water. We're going to be cooked alive. Now, I've got this on many different venues. How many of you take and send money to these different organizations? How do you send it now? Used to be you had to go to Western Union and you had to give them cash, and they took that cash and sent so much of it off to someplace else. And when they sent it off, well, people went in there and they picked it up, signed just this who I am, showed who they are, made sure Western Union could then take and give them a check for that or cash for that. But they can't do it no more. Ever try to take something back, return it in some of these major department stores? They don't give you cash back no more. They'll give it to you in trade, or if you want it back, they'll put it back on your card, but they won't give you cash. Now that's a terrible thing. Think about what's going to happen to the U.S. Mint and the currency there when dollars all of a sudden have no more value than that of a penny. And pennies have more value because they're metal. Even though they're not pure copper anymore, more of an alloy, they're still going to have more value than that piece of paper. Why? You ever wad up a dollar, try to throw it at somebody, see what happens? They'll take a penny and throw it and watch what happens. That's what it's going to be. It's something that you can put in your hand and sling towards somebody. That's not the only real value to the dollar there's going to be. You know, I really thought that there would be some type of major event. You know, we see movies and everything about them. I mean, but the movies, they have to move so fast till that's the reason why they happen like that to them. But in actuality, in reality, it's a slow moving event. that are happening. There are chains of things that's happening to us people. If you're a prepper and if you're in your home right now and you're watching this and you're not making the move to seclude yourself, the very moment that you see that you can't spend your dollar anymore anyplace else, use your card to get as much as you want and go underground and hide from everybody because within 2 or 3 years, 5 years from now, all you're going to have is what you have on. And everybody's going to want that. But you know what worries me about the peppers? We're out here, we're prepping for ourselves. We're getting ready for all this. But what's going to happen when you don't connect from one community of preppers to the next? And they know about you. Each prepper knows about you, knows what you got and where you got it at. They come looking. Well, you say, well, I don't tell anybody where I'm at. You don't have to. You got a GPS locator that's in those cards that you have. So if you say, well, I just leave the cards behind me, fine. What are you going to use to trade with them? And how do you know that that shot you're giving you isn't putting a tracker inside your arm to where they can find you no matter where you go? Somebody told me, and I read this article on, uh, I forget where it was, but that Dr. Fauci in 2017 said that Trump would lose because of a major pandemic. If he knew this back in 2017, then he must have known that all this is going to be planned out. But truthfully, people, are you really ready? Can you bug out from your location? You might be able to take and drive a car for so long, so far. There's people living off grid right now that has a better chance of surviving than some of the preppers. But every one of these places that's living off grid, they have a chance of getting run over, and everything taken away from them. They're not really ready because they're planning for a major thing and think everything can be protected within a few months. I watched Doomsday Preppers, and the longest anybody can ever live on there, by their estimate, was 18 months. And that's not long. 18 months. There's one on there that could live a lot longer because he's doing like I am. He's learning about the different things, the ways to live, where you don't have to rely on barter and trade, but yet you have a knowledge about things, about what to eat, what not to do, not to eat, how to take dirty, ugly, disgusting water and turn it to fresh drinking water without all those chemicals and stuff that you can find. There's ways of doing it, but most of you don't know it, but he knows it. I know it. Yeah, I made a statement that throughout America, different places that I've been, I have always gone to one location here and there, different places, and I took and I planted seeds that I knew would grow into food that I could come back and eat and gather later on. Ones that if left go, let go and just grow wild all over the place would not take long for them to propagate. in that area. And then all I have to do is go back to that area, recognize what the plant is, and I'll have the seed. I'll give you an example. I've got corn planted, and you think that you're going to go out there and see these big long stalks. Corn was not originally that. Do you know what corn originally looked like before it was a stalk growing up the way it is? It takes about 6, 7 generations of that corn growing wild before it goes back to the way it was to begin with. Do you know what it looks like? Even with the deer and other animals eating it, there's so much of it planted in certain places that I know of till even if they eat it when they shit and do the droppings here and there, some of those corn will grow wild. Take long before they become something you're not ready to recognize. Many people way up north can recognize wild rye and wild rice. That is a great thing because wild rye and wild rice growing in some of these waters can be a great thing. Even though the water's going to be brackish and there'll probably be leach field, it won't matter because they already know what to do and how to take care of it. But after a while, of everybody in the world around them coming by there to get that wild rye and rice, there won't be much left. Did they take time to understand the wild rye and the wild rice and how to put it and plant it in such a way to where people don't recognize it? Let me tell you, I was sitting on a porch with a couple, and they had this beautiful, nice little backyard and little uh, wildlife and wild grass and stuff growing around a porch and everything on the back deck. And it was looking real nice. I go over there one evening and I noticed that they had something wild growing there. And I looked, and not many people, especially them, they didn't recognize it. But I did. Now I knew it was safe to eat, proper to eat, and I took and picked it up. Picked it, took it, rubbed it on my head, got the shell and the whole off of it, and I plopped it in my mouth. That was very sweet. What am I talking about? Oats. You eat oatmeal. Oatmeal is something that's been processed by other people. But do you know what wild oats look like? Where do you think they got the phrase, sowing your wild oats? Go out there and sow your wild oats. Get it over with. Because there's going to come a time when you have to go live and feed off that wild oat. Do you know what it looks like? Not many people. Could you recognize? I know that you think that you do. All the different type of clovers that you can eat. Do you recognize all the different type of wild onions, ramp, and garlics that there are out there? Do you realize there are even grass that you can take and pull up, not like a cow, but with your hands, and you can chew on and get vital nutrition from it? There are type of weeds stuff growing out there that if you know what you're doing and it's growing wild, you can harvest it and make it yours. Throughout the southeast, there's a little weed growing there called poke salad. Now it grows wild throughout the southeast. And the old timers, they knew how to pluck it and when to pluck it and what to do to make that poke salad safe to eat. And it tastes just like collard greens or turnip greens. It tastes any different. But very few young people these days understand what it takes to pick poke salad. Because if you do it wrong, it can kill you. Do it right, then you can live. A lot of them don't even know. Lots of places throughout the southeast they grow a thing called kudzu. The dangest thing, they brought it over to kind of help control the banks and the runoff and stuff like that. And it did pretty good. Some people planted around their houses, a wild plant. And then it just started taking over the southeast. But did you know the kudzu is related to the potato plant? You can take and eat parts of the kudzu that would taste like an asparagus. You can take the leaves and wash it and cook it down, and it'll take like a mustard green. You can take and wash it down and cook it down, the broad leaves on that thing, and add it with cabbage and different things like that. No, not many people know that. And then if you dig up the little bulbs, which little bitty things, shoots, look, some of them say it looks more like a horseradish or a carrot or something like that. Some people say it looks more tubular uh, potato. But did you know they're edible? Not many people did. Did you know you can take a pine tree and go in and pull that outer bark out and go in there and then scrape off the inner? Don't eat any of that because it's bad for you. But then you can take and dig you out a portion of that inner wood, put in some water, soak it overnight, and then bring it back in, chop it up real fine, and put it in a cloth or what I would call a leaf or something that you can make up to where you can strain it and strain it. Put it in a pot then, boil it with some water, throw that water off, boil it again with some water, throw it off, then take that pieces of wood that now look as brown as ever, chop it up very fine, put it in a pan, dry pan, no oil, no nothing, and roast it till it's real dark brown. Take it, run water over it, and you can drink it then. It's similar to chicory. Yeah, it's got a coffee-like smell and all like chicory. People don't know that. They don't know which pine. There's only certain pines you can do that. Like people now finding out you can eat pine nuts. I've known that all my life. There's a type of grass out there I call sour grass. I won't tell anybody about what it looks like, but it tastes like a green apple. But yeah, it's real good. Add it to salads, whatever, real good. There's a type of weed out there that I know. Looks like little pods and little seeds on it, like that of a pepper. You take and put that into a salad or something like that, or get a good handful, throw it into a pan and roast it up. It's black pepper. Wow, wow. See, I know these things. Most people don't. You know, the discovery of coffee came about because goats eating off the bush, and that's how the herder found out about it. His goats eat off a bush, and this happened to the something happened to the goats, and he tried to eat, he couldn't, he kept on wondering, and he tried different things, and wound up coming up with coffee. Same thing with tea. pruning a certain type of leaves off a bush, and there's all type of tea all around you. You just don't recognize it. Just go in there and pull off a few of the leaves, put it in your pack or some place for it to dry out, let it dry out. Then take it, boil it, and you can drink it. And then there's the insects. A lot of people say, well, I'm never going to eat a grasshopper or ant or worm or any of this other stuff. Let me tell you, you said you got to eat it right like that. After all, a lot of people come to enjoy fried grasshopper or chocolate covered grasshopper. Some people call them cricket, looking, whatever. You see down in South America where they eat the tarantulas, taken, pull the legs off because it's not much, or some of them grab them by the legs and skewer them, put them on a fire and roast them, knock off all the hairs from them, and turn around, smash them down, make a patty out of them, cook them again, and they're good to eat. But you don't have to eat them like that. There's other ways of eating them. It's like the ants. There's a certain flavor and smell to them. You make a tea and broth and put those ants in there, let them cook and stew. Then you drain everything off of there, that hard chunk, and you won't even tell that you're drinking the protein and nutrition you need to have for your body. So, well, this takes water. Water's going to be polluted. What can you do to do that? That's the same thing they were doing many a time before they had a water treatment plant. If you don't know what to do, then you're lost. A lot of the people take and they drink wine day in and day out, straight up. But do you know why wine was made to begin with? It wasn't to make you drunk. It's to put in the water to make it safe to drink. A little bit of wine in the water can help it a whole lot, a whole lot. Over in Europe, in certain places, France, Spain, Germany, and all, even the children learn to start drinking little things like absinthe or a certain type of blushing or pink or rosé or something like that in their water at a young age. They don't get drunk off of it, but they do it. Many people don't recognize what it looks like. Wild wheat. Would you know how to gather wild wheat? And did you know you can eat wild wheat without removing the chaff? That it was safe to do it? But something's happening, people. And if you're not prepared right now to do the things that you need to do, too late for you. I'm an old man. I can't get around like I used to. But even now, I have come up with ways that I could take. If I needed to, I could travel. Might not be far each and every day, but it'll get me there. I read this book one time called One Step. Now, I can't remember who wrote it, but I loved it. It talked about apocalyptic times, how something happened. And this one little kid was separated 3,000 miles away from his family, his father, and all like that. Because he was over at a boarding school, something like that. Anyway, when something happened and he wanted to take off, he started it by doing one step at a time. One step. I remember that book so much because he wore these airman's goggles on his eyes. Every place that he went, nobody could see it. It was fallout, radiation, stuff like that. And the whole place where he went, he kept these on his face and his eyes. And I think it was several years later he made it there. And he went to take them off and he couldn't because they had grown into the skin. So he removed the glasses and he couldn't see because his eyes had never adjusted outside the darkness of those aviator glasses that he had on. So he had to put them back in so he could see. But he made it to where he wanted to go because of one step at a time. There's lots of you don't even know how to weave a basket. You know the true tools that anybody learned to make first. What's something to break open things, but something that people could learn to gather and put things in to carry it with them. Because more they can gather, more they can eat. So learning to weave, take the grass and stalks like that and put them together to make something where you can weave was the first tool. It's sort of like taking a leaf and floating it and making a drinking cup to where you can take just the top of the water that's safe to drink, not the lower part, but the top part, pull it off, and you have fresh water, making a cup out of a leaf. Those were the first tool. They said no digging stick. No, before there was a digging stick, you had to have water. Before you knew to pull certain plants up by the root, you had to know what the plants were and how to gather them. And where you going to put them when you gather them? You put it in some place, a pouch or something. These are the knowledge that I have gained. I understand these things and I understand this type of life. I also have understood that not everybody's going to be able to survive being alone. Even though you got a group of people in one place, that you will isolate them, the biggest problem you're going to have with all this isolation is called cabin fever. And you say, oh no, we'll have things. No, 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 we won't have any problem. Let me tell you something. I said back, a while back, there's a number for everything. And it even plays with cabin fever. There's just so many days that you can do the same thing over and over. Just so many days where you can have the same food over and over. So many days you can take and teach the same lessons over and over. There's so many days that you can do all this till those that had a weakest mind will wind up trying to find other things to do, find other ways to live. They're going to find some way. And if they can't, they're going to become a hindrance to you and a problem to you. And if you don't just shoot them right off the bat, they'll kill you. How do I know? Because that's part of cabin fever. They need, they have to have. What's really bad is all these people that's on the internet here, they have gotten so used to being popular on the internet to when it comes time that they need to isolate and get away from it all, they're not going to be able to do it. Those are your weakest minds because they got to have approval from all these different people for everything they do. And that's why they have the likes and the thumbs up, have the stars and all these things. And if you take that away from them, it'd just be like taking cocaine away from an addict. They're going to go crazy. So you isolate them and to where they haven't got to worry about it. And you see, well, nah, my kids ain't like that. My we can get by with all this. No, that's the same logic that an addict says, well, this is the last time. I'm not taking no more of this. And then they turn to crack. Just like the guys growing weed and pot to smoke. That's all fine and dandy. Hemp and all like that can be real good for you. But there's a number. If you're growing a bunch of it, there's going to be a number of people come around. And when they do, they find out they can't get it anymore from you, they'll take it. And if they can't take it, the next group may. It goes on and on and on until some of your group in there gets a little cabin fever, a little wacky in the head and starts coming after you. Now, I preach, and I don't like to say preach. I like to teach about new worship, new way of worshiping, how God is in your head the whole time. You always have. That is above all, has always been in your head, and eventually we'll have to go back to it because the Bibles and all this is going to be taken away. So what are you going to teach your kids? You going to teach them about the Bible? And they're going to say, well, what's that? How can you say that? We don't know about this. And you think, well, that's all right. They can learn from you. But haven't you learned from your own kids now, from when you were growing up, that you take all that stuff away and you can't prove any of that? You might as well be talking about the Easter bunny, Easter rabbit, Friday the 13th, Santa Claus, and all this other stuff. But they're not going to believe you either. They're going to find their own thing. And they're going to find it separately from you. And they're going to wind up being a weaker mind than you because they haven't got all this. You want to know where the fighting and turmoil is going to come at? That's where it's going to come. People, you just don't realize it. We're that frog in that frying pan, and the frying pan being turned up. When they take away our ability to spend an American dollar to buy something, this is not the dollar they're taking away. It's taking away our ability to barter and trade. How many of you people living in the city, you can go to a farm, walking, taking what you have, and go to a farm, take enough stuff to get enough food from a farmer to take back to your place to where you can live for just 1 or 2 days. If you can't do that, you say, well, I'm growing my own stuff. You're the ones these people are coming to barter and trade with. You don't barter and trade with them, they're going to go off mad and half cocked. They're going to have that cabin fever and they're going to come back. So you take care of a few of them. Eventually, you're going to be overwhelmed. I want you to feel the hopelessness of things because there's so many of you are hopeless. You go in the wrong direction. There's people that live in Canada that has gone off grid, living up in the mountains, self-sustaining for so long time now. They will be all right. There are people throughout the Rocky Mountains or the Smoky Mountains, places like that, that have been living like this for a long time. They'll be all right. And the wayward vagabond, stranger walking by himself, they will be all right, especially if they don't pose a threat to anybody. All you peppers with your guns and all these other things, you're just setting a trap, not for them, but for yourself. You have to realize if you cannot go back in the backwoods with just a knife, not an axe, just a knife, barefoot, cut off short, raggedy, straggler, and go back there and make a way of living and stay alive out there and eat in the wild like that. If you can't do that, you have to protect in the world. And if you can, you got to worry about that cabin fever creeping in and taking over your life. Whatever you got. Yeah, I do this late at night, so I don't disturb my neighbors, even though they may hear me. Whatever, it doesn't make any difference. Most people think that I'm just wild-minded, kind of loony in the head. I don't care what people think. I don't care about how they perceive me of one way or the other. That doesn't matter to me. You see, I've lived a long life in this world. And this long life, I live by my way because I see all this coming. Most people can't. Your eyes are closed. Closed because it's not just one frog in that frying pan. You got a whole group, and you think that you're protected by your brothers and sisters in that frying pan. No, you're in danger. And if you don't believe me, just go to your local grocery store or good stores or whatever, any place, and see how many of them are now preferring you to pay with your card instead of with cash. And for that major department store out there that's already limiting all that, paying with cash, they're setting it all up. And you think, well, it's okay, we can go like that. You're the frog in the frying pan with the heat being turned up, and you just don't know it. This is David, in the worship, preference, rainbow wisdom, whatever you want to call it, saying good luck and goodbye.